Hi everyone, my name is Madison Dorn, and today we're going to be talking about King Louis VI of France, also known as Louis the Fat, due to his heavy-set nature. First, we're going to start with some background information on King Louis VI. King Louis VI was born to Philip I and Bertha of Holland in 1081. He died August 1st, 1137. He reigned from 1108 to 1137. Louis was declared a successor in 1098 and was ruling long before his father's death in 1108. Louis had two wives. He had no children with his first wife, Lucienne of Rochefort, and had his marriage dissolved by the Pope in 1107. He married again and had 8 children with the second wife, Adelaide of Maurienne. One of his main goals was to bring royal lands under firm control. He spent most of his reign fighting either the robber barons, who were feudal landowners who imposed high taxes and tolls without authorization from a higher authority, who plagued Paris, or the King of England, for their possessions of certain parts of Normandy. His reign was marked by the rise of communes in France and the consolidation and expansion of royal power. Louis was considered a warrior king and fought in many battles. Louis waged war throughout his reign with those who defied his power. Louis would put his own house in order by summoning them to court, and if they did not present themselves, Louis would gather an army to bring them to court. This led to increased prestige in the rest of France. As he grew older, his obesity became a problem, and he was unable to fight in battle. During Louis's reign, population centers began to band together to form communes. This worked in Louis's favor, since communes tended to reduce the power of nobility by removing some authority over trade and urban production from their hands. Louis was said to have a generally good relationship with the church. His relations with the Abbey of Saint Denis were particularly good. In 1120, he deposited his father's crown at the abbey, starting a tradition which his successors upheld. At his death, he was buried at the abbey. Suger, the abbot of Saint Denis, was confidant and advisor to the king, and was the primary chronicler of Louis's reign. It is said that Louis laid much of the groundwork for the future consolidation of the power of his dynasty. Most of Louis's major battles were against King Henry I of England. One of those battles was the Battle of Brumel. The Battle of Brumel was fought on August 20th, 1119. Henry I had to defend his land in Normandy several times before from Louis. At the Battle of Brumel, the French were defeated, which led King Louis to accept William Adelin as Duke of Normandy, even though King Louis still supported William Clito's claim that he was Duke. Chronicles from the French side describe the battle as bloody and brutal. Even though many describe Louis the Fat as being quite obese, it is said that despite his heavy weight, he fought with great pride during the battle. The Chronicles of the Normans claim they only had 3 casualties, which is what many believe to have happened, even with what the Chronicles of the French said. Despite a century of warfare, this was the last true battle that the Capetian monarchy would participate in for the next century. The next true Capetian battle would be the Battle of Bouvines. In medieval times, the French and the English did not get along, as we can see, with King Louis VI of France and King Henry I of England. A real-world example of their continued fighting would be what some is referred to now as the 100 Years' War. This was a series of conflicts and disputes that covered a period of 100 years that the House of Capet, rulers of the French kingdom, fought against the House of Plantagenet, rulers of the Kingdom of England. There had always been a complicated relationship between France and England. Before the 100 Years' War, there was what some historians refer to as the First 100 Years' War, which was a long conflict in which the French kings steadily reduced and weakened the Angevin Empire. The First 100 Years' War was ended by the Treaty of Paris. The first serious crisis after conclusion of the Treaty of Paris came in 1293, when ships from England and Bayonne were engaged in a series of clashes with the Norman fleet. The 100 Years' War demonstrated that English authority could not become effective in hostile France, and that the French were not strong enough to make the English kings recognize the utter folly